So we have this compromised embouchure, and that's what you're using. And the interesting thing too is that when you go down for your low notes, we actually do something that imitates Einsätzen or setting in a lot. Because as we go, when we go for a low note, we drop our jaw and we move it so that the relative position of the lips and the teeth are just as if you were Einsätzen. When I get down to those lowest notes, I've moved everything this way. So it actually is setting in, just like the old guys, except mine's positioned in such a way that I can get out of there without having to reset. So I can go like this. But that low note is played almost as if it were Einsätzen. So that's what we do. We kind of try to fake the whole Einsätzen thing by making the embouchure do this when we're on low range. And then we're set to get up to the high range. You know, it's not really fair. What singer has to be, well, I'm an alto. No, you have to be everything. You have to be a bass and sopranino or something with the highest, whatever they call it, coloratura. Of course, a singer would say, well, you're nuts. The laws of physics doesn't work. Well, unfortunately, that's what they're telling us, is that we really have to be able to play all the ranges. Now, once you're a professional, don't you specialize a little bit? Those of you guys that are, I mean, some of us get kind of pigeonholed, actually. Because I have one of these heavy things with too many slides and valves on it. I always have to play the high notes. And I can, so it kind of, I get stuck up there a lot. And then there are people that just tend to play beautifully low, and they get their job maybe as a second or a fourth horn player. And they kind of, like again, Steve Proser's a great example of this in Symphony in Salt Lake. He's a terrific low horn player, by the way. I mean, that's how he makes his living. He's a fourth horn. He's superb. But I've also heard him, oddly enough, when I was the horn teacher at Missouri University, we had a little orchestra festival in the summer that I always ignored, because I was playing in St. Louis, so I thought, oh yeah, this little thing locally. Well, one year, Steve Proser showed up, and he was first horn. And it's like, you know, that's how we met, oddly enough, before we came here. And they played the Haydn Symphony, the Horn Signal Symphony, which is the highest possible thing you can imagine to play. It scares everybody. It's on all the auditions that you don't really want to take. Steve's this monster fourth horn player, and Einsätzen player. That means setting in for low notes, and he just nailed the thing. He didn't even, I don't remember they even had a desk yet. He just nailed it. So, you know, we have to be able to do it all a little bit. So, let's talk about how the mouthpiece functions itself. By the way, anybody that has comments that, you know, from folks that, you know, please do break in. I hope this isn't too much of a monologue. What about the function of the embouchure itself? Should we be able to buzz well without the horn or the mouthpiece at all? What do you think? What do you think? There is some controversy on this.
I knew Gail Williams. I studied at the same time she was in Ithaca.
You did it?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, that must have been freaky.
Yeah.
Freaky. She's one of the greatest horn players in the world. She's from Ithaca College, where he used to be. So there you go.
And she had a beautiful tone then. And I remember later, after she'd been in Chicago, that giving lessons, she would buzz without the mouthpiece. And she said, if you can make the buzz sound beautiful, everything else falls in place. And she does. And if you ever meet up with her and ask her, she'll give you a quick demonstration. She can buzz and make it sound gorgeous.
Well, actually,
that's where the tone begins.
That's interesting, because I actually did meet up with her, and I did ask her that question. I said, I've always wanted to ask you this. Actually, I've asked lots of my friends through the years this question, and I said to Gail Williams, do you and can you buzz without the mouthpiece? And she says, oh, I do it all the time. And then she went, this is like this lovely lady goes, that's funny. So that's cute. And, you know, the context made it okay. And yeah, and the fact is, while I was kind of developing my idea about this, I asked all of the friends I had professionally if they could buzz. without the mouthpiece. And I have never had a professional tell me they couldn't. Never, not one. But I've had lots of students that have production problems that can't buzz without the mouthpiece. That they stuff like that. And I'm not so sure that's just a casual fact. I think that's a causal fact. Make sense? I think that's why. I think the fact is that the buzz is the source, without the mouthpiece, is the source of what we do. And that we use the mouthpiece to discipline it and funnel it in and to, you know, make it what we want it to be in terms of sonic quality. But I always tell my students to buzz without the mouthpiece, particularly those that have problems playing high. Particularly that. Because I think that if you can do this, if I can pop that, which is almost a high C, it's probably more like a B today. That high sound that you just heard is about a high C. See, if I can get that to happen without having the crutch of all this this metal on my face, then when I put the mouthpiece on, I get a whole bunch of support that helps me do it even higher. But you see, if I can do it without lots of support, then I don't have to use much pressure, do I, to get that buzz to go high. And I don't have to use much excess tension to get it to go high either. So I think that's a really useful thing to do. But there are some caveats. I know that Sonia has a caveat that she has talked about before.
So I was wondering about this. We had a master class on Tuesday, and actually this was a trombone professor who brought this up.
Who's
but,
we?
Oh, sorry, UVU horns.
Oh, so you're one of the UVU horns.
Yeah, sorry.
Cool.
And one of the things that he was actually there as a substitute for Professor Wallace for the day.
Well, there is no substitute for
No,
I'm sure he did the best he could.
a subpar fill-in.
Yeah.
Let's make sure that doesn't leave this room.
Yeah. No, he's a great trombone player,
but it is, after all, just a trombone, so.
Can't top horn. So the big thing that he was going on about was that he was talking about embouchure a little bit and about how we have to think too much about what we want, where it should just be we're just telling our bodies, and it just responds because we don't think, oh, I want to talk loud, and therefore I put a lot of effort into talking loud. No, we just do it. And I was wondering, with the buzzing, is that, I mean, it seems like that would be kind of the same principle in the sense that you want the airflow to even out such that that's really working with your lips.
Now, you have just, you don't know what you've just done. Okay, here's the deal. First of all, let me say that I agree with them to a certain extent, but that trombone players in general, and low brass players in general, are psychotic about song and wind because of one of their great teachers. And the idea is that don't think about the embouchure, don't think about the structure, don't just blow. Don't worry about the face, just blow. Well, I do understand that, because if you get tied up, like adults do, right? When I told you that they can't form embouchures because they can't figure out that it's just natural, then, see, so they're right. They are right. On the other hand, eventually you have to talk about something except for fuel. If you had a high-performance car that was missing a lot, and you go to the mechanic and he says, well, just use better fuel. Well, I'm using Chevron, Tacron, Supreme. Well, just use better fuel. But there isn't better fuel. Well, just use better fuel anyway, because that's all I know how to talk about. See, you wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's something else going on. And when there is, then it's nice to kind of know what it is. So if you tell a non-musician, hey, well, there's an extreme example. When we first got married, my wife didn't know anything about French horn because she's a normal person. And she's not diseased like the rest of us. And she goes, Larry, I've always had a question. Why is the French horn so hard to play? You've only got 4 buttons. The piano has 88. That's got to be a lot harder. I go, well, you gotta understand, you know, the toll production itself is complex. And she goes, yeah, I could see she didn't believe me. So she told me that one day, while I was at school or whatever, she got my horn out. She wanted to find out what is the big deal. So she picks it up. She figures, you know, it's going to be kind of like a noisemaker of some kind. And lo and behold, she couldn't make a sound, as you could imagine. And as she went, didn't get any better than that. And so she gained a more healthy respect. Well, see, that's the thing. Obviously, if you just blow, she was just blowing and it didn't do anything, did it? It didn't work. So it's not just blowing. Once you've been taught to do it right, then don't focus on that and just blow through it and lose your inhibitions and use good air.
Right.
There you have it. That's where I stand on that.
Okay.
Now, the other thing is that trombone embouchures are different than ours.
Right. Well,
You blow through something that big, there isn't much more. There really isn't much more to talk about.
I was actually wondering more about the free buzzing specifically, because then, I mean, all you have is your lips and your air. So I was wondering about
Very natural. See, for me, that's a very natural part of it, though, is to remember that it really does get down to something that basic. Now, so what I would do is I would learn the structure, which is pretty specific, and then I would spend all my time trying to blow right past it and just get the air out of the horn and listen for the beautiful sound you want.
Okay.
So he's right. But it works better for tubas. They don't even have an embouchure. There is no tube embouchure. There's just a mouthpiece and lips. And that's all it is.
So what would you say the basic structure is? So you've got your air going into it.
I'm going to tell you what it is right now. Yeah. For me, it's so different than what most of us were taught that it's almost criminal. Now, how many of you guys are Farkas devotees? Like, did anybody go to Indiana? Good. Because I think that book has unintentionally practically paralyzed the generation. Because it shows well, everything it says is wrong, but the embouchure chapters are particularly bad because it shows a picture of an embouchure which is the anti-embouchure. Like Korihor was the oh, you guys know that because you're not necessarily members of my church. Sorry, that's a BYU thing. I won't pull that here. Anyway, most of you may know. Anyway, the point is that you don't, the anti-embouchure, the puckered smile. That's the puckered smile, and it's in the book. You smile, and then you pucker. And that's not an embouchure. And the odd thing about that is that after he shows that picture, then he says, here's some photographic evidence of all these pros. Have you seen the book? It's disgusting. It's like, that's nasty. But there they are, these pictures of the mouthpiece rim up to the face. Have you seen those? Yeah. If you haven't, make sure your mom shows you, but only with proper adult supervision. Those pictures are absolutely, completely not the embouchure he's teaching in the book. They're all completely the embouchure I'm about to tell you, which is just whistle and tuck your bottom lip, and that's all you have.